All right, I'm seeing the red live button here, Herb. We're good to go, man. What is up? We're here to
Live.
talk some Bears football, catch up a little bit, but I'm doing it with my guy Herb Howard. How you been, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. Just been, back in the city. I've been seeing you get all around. I know you was down there in Mobile for the Senior Bowl, and checking out some of the prospects down there, talking to some people behind the scenes as well, man. How was the trip?
It was a good trip. I've always enjoyed going down to Mobile, Alabama. It's very similar vibes, I would say, to the combine because you're out late, you're watching players, you're talking to people. But a good time. I also got a chance to like hang out with Alex Shapiro from CHSN. That was his
Yeah,
first time
yeah.
down there. Made some rookie mistakes.
Uh-oh.
Like the sun is deceiving, very
Mm-hmm.
deceiving down there. It was
Mm-hmm.
60 and cloudy. You can still get sunburnt. I tan. Alex Shapiro does not.
Burn.
So he burns a lot. So yeah, no, it was a good time. Like I was just telling you earlier before we went live, I got in from Mobile this morning. Had my flight delayed last night. Had to go to Dallas.
Yeah.
Spend some time there, and now we're back, and got a bunch of things planned for the rest of the day. So
That football travel
been good.
schedule can be a little hectic, man. Sometimes you get on the road and it just don't go as smooth as you hope, and it's like I'm gonna end up over there, and I missed this flight and I connect. It's like, hey, sometimes it could be a little bit hectic, following the NFL around, but it's worth it, man.
And you know what? I used to back in the day, like get so pissed when things like that would happen. And
Yeah.
now I was like, you know what? It is what it is. Like I'll get there when I get there. And it was whatever at this point, but you get used to it because we've done it for a while.
Yeah. Control what you can control, man. If it's gonna be a delay, I'm not gonna have a delay and have a headache too. So it's like I'm just gonna chill out. You know what I mean?
No, that's a good point. Yeah. Be where your feet are, right? Isn't that what a
Be where your
lot of
feet are,
coaches
man. That's
like
all
to
you can
say?
do. You got to
Yeah,
coach speak your way
absolutely.
through it.
Speaking of coach speak, I mean, we had
Yeah.
the coordinators get introduced yesterday. And you know what? I've been hearing and seeing, like, I guess depending on which end of Bears Twitter you go into, people are optimistic about the guys that they bring in, Dennis Allen, Declan Doyle as the OC, and then retaining Richard Hightower. And then there are other people, it's like, well, Declan's never done this before. Tight ends coach, has been with Sean Payton his entire career. Dennis Allen, how it ended in New Orleans wasn't the greatest in terms of like the defensive numbers that final season. Then,
True.
Richard Hightower, I think what he did, that final game against Green Bay, like I don't think anybody's upset that he's back. But
No.
I guess what is just your, just reactions to the three coordinators that they have and just some of the things that they may have said yesterday? Just what are just those instant reactions from you?
Yeah, I'm not the biggest like rose colored glasses Bears fan anymore. Like I try to temper my expectations, but I really like what they did with the coordinators. I really do. I thought it made a whole lot of sense to go out and get a veteran DC, preferably one with some head coaching experience, considering that Coach Ben Johnson does not have any, and so he can help him out with some of the things that he's gonna be seeing for the first time. But we can also do in terms of Coach Johnson being able to trust that Coach Allen can take the defense, implement the system, and kind of take care of that side of the football as much as he needs him to while Ben Johnson is working with Caleb and building up this offense. I don't want Coach Johnson to be a completely hands-off head coach in terms of I don't know anything about the defense. I don't know what's going on. I don't want him to be like that. But he does need somebody that he can lean on while he's kind of building this thing up. And I think having a DC like Dennis Allen, who's been there, who's done that, is going to be really good. I also like some of the characteristics that Coach Allen brings in terms of his defensive play calling, how he goes about deploying his guys. He tries to dictate, and we heard him say in this press conference, we want to dictate to the offense what's happening out here and not just be so reactive and responsive to what they're trying to do to us. And I look at the Bears roster, and I think that they absolutely have some pieces in place where they can kind of dictate to you how we're going to go about doing things. We talked about the potential for Jalen Johnson to maybe travel and shadow some of these great receivers, but also you got pieces like Kyler Gordon, who Coach Allen, specifically named in his press conference, and the many different things that Kyler can do that affords you the opportunity to disguise some coverages, disguise some pressures, move him around. Kyler can play outside, he can play inside, he can bring pressure, he can support in the run game, and so he allows you to do a lot of different things. And Coach Allen is a guy who does like to show you a lot of different looks, and I think that's going to be beneficial to what the Bears want to do in terms of creating some mismatches, scheming guys up to either disguise coverages or create mismatches and pressure. So I really like what they did with that hire. I was absolutely ecstatic that they brought back Coach Richard Hightower. I think he's certainly one of the best special teams coordinators in the league, but also his familiarity with the roster and some of the guys that are on the roster. I think that special teams coordinators, they really should get more of a look during these head coaching cycles to become potential head coaches for a lot of these teams, because you look at their jobs and their responsibilities, they have more direct contact with the majority of the roster than any other coordinator, right? Offensive coordinators, they work with the offense. Defense, same thing with the defense. But these special teams coordinators, they work with the entirety of the roster from first string all the way down to third and fourth string, and they're already ready to go. They know the roster so well. And so I think just their ability to manage so many things is really indicative of what they could become as a head coach. You talk about, say, your special teams coordinator and the starting linebacker goes down in the second quarter. Well, immediately you got to know, okay, so now the backup linebacker is going into the number one defense. What does that mean for my special teams unit? Because certainly the backup linebacker, he may have been my L3 on kick return or kickoff or whatever. And so I got to get somebody else in there. And then what is that like? He got to be able to juggle all those things in real time. I think that bodes well for maybe their potential to be good game managers, but also to understand the roster in terms of how it's constructed. So I'm really, really glad that Coach Hightower came back. He's a player's coach, but he's also very strict, and he can discipline them when need be. So I'm glad that he came back. Really, really excited about that. And then Declan Doyle. Much has been made about him, coming over and being the Bears OC, and he's 28 years old. And, a lot of people say that's underwhelming, but that pick was going to be underwhelming regardless, because at the end of the day, Ben Johnson's the offensive coordinator. You are the offensive coordinator, Declan Doyle, in name only. You're like the assistant offensive coordinator, right? This is Ben Johnson's offense. He's going to call the plays. He needed someone that he would like working with, that would do the behind the scenes work in terms of tape, in terms of whatever he needs him to do. But you weren't going to go get some, superstar, well-known offensive coordinator to come in and be somebody's assistant OC. That wasn't the reality. And so everything I hear about him, he's a tape junkie. He watches a lot of film, and I think you can do a lot worse than having studied under Sean Payton for the entirety of your time in the National Football League.
No, I mean, really good point. I'll start with Declan first. I have this comment. We'll put Eric's comment here. Declan Doyle, older or younger than Nick? He's younger than me, so I'm like, what is going on here? Yeah, so Declan and I, we would have actually overlapped when we were at Iowa. I was a senior when he was a sophomore, but obviously would never have met him or known that he was going to be the next OC.
You wasn't nice to the kid. You probably dissed him at a party or something too.
Potentially, but hopefully I can make those wrongs rights now that get to interact over the years. But he's only 28. But the people I talked to that have overlapped with him in the Saints organization, they said that's 2 years too late to be an OC. Like just talking with guys that were on the Saints roster who are now coaching in the Senior Bowl, they thought he should have been, the youngest OC ever. Guys were also saying something along the lines of like, if you were to go back and ask me who would be the next upcoming OC, it's Declan Doyle. And I'm like, what is it about Declan that makes you say, I mean, these are, high remarks here. And it's just the organization that he has. And you mentioned the film junkie. That's what he is. I think that's such a nice compliment to have for Ben Johnson, who's going to have way more responsibilities than he's ever had in his coaching life. And now that you can put maybe some of those responsibilities, like go scout the other team, go see what exactly they run, get in the film room, grind it out, let me know how I can be a better play caller because of the information you're going to give me. That's why I think when you mentioned Herb, like what were you kind of expecting out of this OC role when Ben Johnson's the one calling the plays? Like I think that's a nice asset to have, somebody who's going to do the dirty work. As we all watch film in the media, we have to just kind of understand this game and be better equipped to ask questions, whatever it may be. But these guys are finding those tendencies. They're finding that matchup that you can exploit with the playmakers that you have. And I think that's where Declan Doyle feels most equipped to help this team right now. And, he was also a guy when he was with Sean Payton, like he was actually making the run concepts for Sean at such a young age. So that would have been 2019, 2020 when he was doing that. So he's making the run concepts, but he's also in the passing game meetings too. So it's like he's got his he's got his hand in all these different aspects of the offense. And at the time, too, he was already making like his passing coordinator book. So he was already thinking forward ahead of how he can, potentially, be ascend in this league and do it at a different level. So I really do like the idea of what Declan Doyle can bring. And then really quickly on Dennis Allen, Herb, like hearing like what he can do for this defense, like he mentioned the secondary as being something that he's going to like utilizing and highlighting a guy like Kyler Gordon. I think it's only a matter of time too before that guy gets an extension because it feels like
Yeah,
there's
he
a
should,
lot of
man.
people.
I wouldn't let Kyler get out the building, man. He's extremely talented. Had some tough luck with injuries a couple years, but when he's on the field, there are a few players that have the totality of his skill set.
Yeah, no, he's an impact player, and like you said, he stays healthy. He's going to be a nice asset for Dennis Allen. But I was asking one of the coaches on who's coaching the Senior Bowl, Adam Gristic, who was a defensive assistant at the time with Dennis Allen. I'm like, what does a Dennis Allen defense need? We know that they need like they do like the prototypical bigger defensive end. So if you're thinking, hey, in the draft, who can the Bears potentially go get if they're going to get an end? I would think bigger, like a bigger guy. Think of, I don't know, most recently like a Marcus Davenport. He didn't maybe work out in
Yeah,
New Orleans, but that physical makeup, that's kind of the
yeah,
guys that they like. Cam Jordan's also a bigger dude as well, but
yeah.
you need that bigger defensive end because they like to obviously want him to set the edge, but also can have that pass rush capability. But also, I'm like, what else? What else is the Dennis Allen defense going to need? And he did say that when looking at the middle of the field, you just need, and to quote Adam Christic here, is like you need somebody that can get people right in the right place and just run the show in your middle linebacker. And the guy that he mentioned was Tremaine Edmonds. And I think, I don't know about you, Herb, but for me, with Tremaine, given the contract that he has, I almost expect more from him. Just
Yeah,
making those
100%.
bigger type of plays. So I wonder if like Dennis Allen can be the guy that hopefully unlocks Tremaine Edmonds to his full capabilities. But it's that middle linebacker is going to be really, really important for, in addition to like the defensive ends and the size that they have, that can make a Dennis Allen defense work.
No, that makes a lot of sense to me, man. But you talk about Tremaine Edmonds, and I'm with you. I think he has been underwhelming. Like, and that's I don't mean it as a knock. He hasn't, like, some people they go too far and they're like he's terrible, and that's not true, right? He's a good football player. But those impact plays that
Yeah.
you want to see those throughout the game, 4 quarters, the entire field. He becomes a real problem down in the red zone, especially that low red, because he's just a huge person to kind of navigate in the middle of that defense with his height, with his length, his range. He becomes a problem for the quarterback. But he's got to be able to make those impact plays, between the 20s as well. And you just don't see enough of that. And with the play that you've gotten from TJ Edwards the last 2 seasons, if you can get that level of play from Tremaine, then you're talking about one of the better linebacker duos in the league, which is what I expected them to be, especially after I saw the player that TJ Edwards was in the 2023 season, right? And so it's like, I would love to see Coach Allen do some things, position Tremaine Edmonds in some ways that allows him to just be the impact playmaker that I think he can be. And so he definitely needs to take that next step. Interesting about the DNs, right? And trying to get those larger DNs. And sometimes you think, well, does that come with the same level of pass rush ability, or does it not? And sometimes yes and sometimes no. But you look at Montez, he's certainly big enough and versatile enough to do either, right? He's got the size and he's got the pass rush ability. Now you go to the other side, it's like, well, do we have the size and the pass rush ability? I think that DeMarcus Walker had a really good year last year. He was able to set the edge. He was able to get some pressures, at times. I don't know if you find that duality, right? And where you got to go to find that. I think it's also important that they stay healthy up the middle, because once, Billings went out, it kind of ruined a lot of things for the Bears. And so if they can stay healthy in the middle and add pieces, man. They got to add pieces to that defensive line, because you got to have 6, 7, 8 guys that can really contribute.
No doubt about it. And one last thing that Adam Gristic, the defensive assistant who overlaps with Allen, says, like, we try to play defense with a light box. So he wants big bodies that can control the edges. So that's kind of the philosophy there. And then just wanted to get some also insight, like blitzing. How's Dennis Allen with the blitz? Where is he at? And basically he said that it's a week-to-week thing, and of course, it's matchups, things like that. But uh, it's safe to say that he's not going to be a Brian Flores. I don't think there's a lot of guys like that, or that are just bringing those unique
Bringing the
blitzes,
house.
bringing the house. Like it could be every single play with how they kind of put guys on the line of scrimmage. But he also wouldn't label him as not a pressure guy. He's going to bring it when we need to bring it, is how Christic put it. So just maybe some things to look for. Yeah. Exactly.
How you bring it and when you bring it, right? Like you don't have to bring it as much as the next. Like you just how you bring it and when is critical, right? Can you catch them off guard? Can you create a mismatch? Can you bring it from a place where maybe they weren't expecting it to come from? And then that's what allows you to be, make those impact plays, because that's when you catch a quarterback off guard. That's when he throws off his back footer. That's when he doesn't see the pressure from the backside, and that's what creates turnovers, man. You got this 2-time, Pro Bowl corner in Jalen Johnson. Sir, you go guard him, and then let us do some other things with these other 10 guys, and that'll create some mismatches and some different things. So I'm excited to see what it looks like as they implement it, as you get into vet mini camp and then on in the training camp. What does it look like? What kind of things are we seeing in practice? I know you won't see the full package until the regular season, but I want to start to see what that thing could look like.
When you were talking there, Herb, like I immediately thought of the last play of the game between the Chiefs and Buffalo Bills when Spagnuolo brings that corner blitz, right place, right time. They don't expect it. You just got to throw it up. And, obviously the Bills don't make the play, but it's those types of calls in those moments that win games right there. So if you're somebody that doesn't bring it as often as Spagnuolo or, Brian Flores is, you got to have that time. You got to have the feel for the game. And that's why bringing a veteran coach like Dennis Allen in, I think, is a huge asset for Ben Johnson going through this for the first time. So I do like the hires. Curious to see how it all works out. But I think, too, like we're just seeing, I don't know, is it a youth movement? I mean, you have Antoine Randall L as well, also being the assistant head coach, wide receivers coach. You have JT Barrett as a quarterbacks coach. Like there is this kind of youth movement that's coming with Ben Johnson, who's also a young coach in himself. And I'm not opposed to that. And also, I don't know if it matters. I'm curious in your opinion on this too, Herb, about guys need to have overlapped with each other. Because, you look at, Dennis Allen and Ben Johnson, like they know of each other, but they have never been on like a same staff in the NFL. But I don't think it's a huge necessity that you need to have guys on that have been, together, because look, Flus had Alan Williams with him, and that didn't quite work out. So I don't think it's a necessity.
No, I don't think it is either. I think you need good football minds that are going to grind, that are good communicators, that are able to relate to the players and challenge them and get the most out of them and hold them accountable. Like that's what I think you need. I don't care if we've done it together before or we haven't. It doesn't really matter. If you are good at what you do and I'm good at what I do, let's bring those things together. I think the sign of any great leader is to just surround yourself with smart people, let them go to work, and you look like a genius. That's really all it is to it. And so, whatever that looks like, however old you are, I don't think it matters. I think there is a benefit to having some younger coaches on your staff that have that relatability to the players, that have more recently gone through what these players are going through, that can speak the same language. These dudes are young and they're different, man. And I'm only like a generation, like half a generation older than them. And I've been in the locker room like, what the fuck are y'all talking about? Like, I don't, sometimes they be like, wait, what did you just say? And I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry. I forgot you was like 20 years old, and my bad. Go talk to Declan about that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what that means. You know what I'm saying? So, as cool as they are, and some of them are very mature, they speak a different language and they view things differently. And the more you can relate to them, the better off you are in terms of being able to communicate with them. So I think that's cool. I will say this though, and shout out to Dan Pompey, who had a piece out either today or yesterday talking about how these senior citizen coaches are in the Super Bowl and having themselves a moment when you talk about Steve Spagnuolo, who you mentioned, and then also Vic Fangio, the Eagles DC, and so those guys are up in age, and Andy Reid. So there's a lot to be gained from experience and knowledge too. Certainly not downplaying the value of that, but I think it could be a really, really cool thing when you have some of those younger guys on your staff as well.
No doubt. And I mentioned Al Harris too. I forgot, there's been so many
Al
additions.
Harris, we want the ball and we're going to score.
Absolutely.
That's all I think about every time I see Al Harris's name. That's all I think about. We want the ball and we're going to score.
I I mean, that I'm like, and you just think of like the production too that the Dallas DBs have had over the year with him being a big part of it. So
Yeah,
again,
a lot of ball
youth
production.
movement, yeah, all about ball production. And Dennis Allen highlighted the secondary in his introductory press conference yesterday. Before we kind of get into some of maybe the Senior Bowl players that I saw down in Mobile, Alabama, I just want everybody to recognize maybe if you're watching the screen, that would be above Herb's left shoulder, pointing it right there at Windy City Sports Cars. Look, they specialize in buying and selling all things related to Chicago sports. Whether you are a diehard fan of the Bears, Bulls, Cubs, White Sox, or Blackhawks, they've got you covered with an extensive selection of sports memorabilia and collectibles. In addition to their Chicago-focused items, they also offer a vast collection of sports trading cards and memorabilia from your favorite teams and players. So visit the online store to find exactly what you are looking for to complete your collection or discover a new favorite. And also, need to give a shout out to Elite Icons. They provide quality and affordable jersey framing for thousands of customers every year. You can trust their products and services to be genuine. And of course, the highest quality backed by the extensive industry expertise. They offer custom jersey framing at the most competitive prices in the nation. Additionally, they host several public and private signings each year featuring your favorite players, regardless of sport or project type. They can frame it. So go check out Windy City Sports Cards and Elite Icons. All right,
Did
I'm
you have a lot of
Nicholas
cards
Moreano.
when you was growing up? My bad, bro.
I did. No, I did. And actually, so it's so weird. Like my brother was sending me all these text messages while I'm in Mobile, Alabama. And he's like, Nick, I think we have this Bo Jackson card. We got like these cards here, and looking at the value, I'm like, those are ones that like, and I was telling him like that dad got us when we were young. I'm like, yeah. So we may have to go hit up Windy City Sports Cards and see what the value of some of these cards are. But I was like, I was a Pokemon dude, Dragon Ball,
Okay.
like I was anime, but I was also at the sports cards.
Yeah.
Both worlds there. What about yourself?
Yeah. I remember just having like the 3-ring binders that was just full of cards and just basketball cards, football cards, some baseball cards. But every day we would go into the store and buy a new pack of cards and rip them open and just trying to see if you had some good ones in there and tossing the other ones aside. And like, oh, I got a Michael Jordan, or I got a Penny Hardaway, or I got like those types of stuff like that. Or you get some of those collector's editions, limited edition cards, and you put them in the binder. And I won't go into a story, but somebody stole one of me and my brother's cards one time. Somebody that was obviously close enough to be in our house. And we was like, no, he was like, Ma, we got to go pull up and go get our cards back. So she took us over there like, hey, man, give me my cards back. What you doing?
Hilarious. I was going to say, I was in a Target one time when I was younger, and I'm like, you ask your parents like at the time, like, ooh, can I get a, some sports card? Or I think these were, I don't remember which ones they were, but she said no. I'm like, man, you want to test out the little detectors on the, when you leave the store.
Right. See what's going on.
I accidentally put it in my pocket, and then nothing rang, and I'm like, oh crap. This and then my mom saw that I had those cards. She's like, you did not. I forgot. You said no, and
I forgot I had it.
But yeah, don't steal. Not great for anybody who's watching. So Herb, I want to share. So I was down there in Mobile, Alabama, and
yeah, man. Who were you impressed with? Who were some of the guys that stood out to you, man? Especially some of these old linemen. I want to hear about some of these old linemen that stood out to you.
For sure. And look, Ryan Poles, Ian Cunningham were there on day 2, day 3. That first day, like eyes centered and just focused on in the trenches, both sides. I mean, for majority of the practice, when they're doing the one-on-ones, they're in this like scrum. Almost looks like what is it? A mosh pit kind of, where you have all the linemen in the middle. All the GMs, coaches, scouts are surrounding them, and they're just watching. But there were some guys that I think not only stood out, but fit what the Bears could be looking for. You want offensive linemen. I think the guy that was the most consistent, and somebody I believe put him already in the chat here, but guy, smaller school, North Dakota State, Gray Zabel, guy that's 6'6", 305, can play left guard, center, right guard. The Bears have needs at left guard, center, right guard. Has some position flexibility. And I think despite coming from, lower level competition, was able to stack up really well with, some of these guys that are in the SEC and things like that, and have, I think, the most consistent practices I would debate out of anybody. And this is somebody I didn't really know much about, but the more you watched him, the more you saw him not only get out in space, use feet correctly, hand usage, all that good stuff. He was
You
able to
threw up
make a
some of
lot
his
of
reps
blocks.
against Georgia, didn't you? Against the kid from
I
Georgia?
believe so, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a guy that I think if you're, I don't know, Ryan Poles, if Ian Cunningham is still here, we'll see where that situation goes with, Jacksonville or whatever. But versatile, consistent, and I think was someone that raised his stock a little bit. Another guy, again, these small, I don't know what it is about these small school guys, and maybe that will turn off some people. Like, nah, like go get somebody that
Yeah.
has played higher level. Like, you don't want another, Braxton Jones playing from a small school, but I get it. I completely understand. But Carson Vincent from Alabama A&M, another guy, 6'6", 314 pounds, athletic, moves his feet. He had a really, really good rep. And I take a lot of stock into these one-on-one reps when I'm down there watching against the Texas A&M edge rusher, Shamar Stewart, who is another guy I'll get into in a little bit. But love the way that he was able to finish that rep. Not only, keep the quarterback clean that was back there, but, just shows that, hey, lower level guy going against higher level talent stood up to that matchup.
You say 6'6", 314 at what position?
Left tackle.
Oh, okay. That's good. So I thought you said he played interior. I'm like, dang, he's big as hell. That's good, especially if he can move his feet, and rush against some of these, SEC guys and be able to hold his own. I think that once they get into some of those, because a lot of these guys will slide just because they aren't, from some of these bigger schools, and you start to get into that third, fourth, fifth, and it's like, hey, like there's no reason for the Bears to be like, we can't double dip at guard or tackle or whatever. You need these dudes. And so, once you come out of free agency with that first wave and you kind of know, what you got there, then you got to understand what you don't have. And then don't be afraid to double dip in some of those spots. And if you like guys early that say, okay, this guy may be an SEC Big Ten guy that comes out of some of those, O-line powerhouses, the Iowas, the Ohio States, the Wisconsins of the world, cool. Alabama, Georgia, cool. If you want to grab them in the first round because of, they'll come from those big schools, cool. But then you can start to get a little bit deeper into the draft. If some of these guys are still around and you got a good grade on them, you like what you've seen from them, don't be afraid to dip back in that pool and create some legitimate competition, because I don't care if you came from Georgia or if you came from North Dakota State. Like, we need the best five. We need the best five, and the more competition, the better.
No, I completely agree with that. Would it surprise you, Herb, if the Bears with that first round draft pick, if it wasn't somebody in the trenches, like would that
piss me off?
It would piss you off. Yeah, I feel I'm very similar. Where if they were,
it wouldn't just surprise me. It would upset me. I'd be angry.
I feel like a lot of people would feel the same way.
I'm all for the sexy picks. I get it. It's cool when you get a receiver, a DB, like that's cool. But like, we need to win the line of scrimmage. Like, I don't have a problem with our talent on the outside. I'm fine with Jalen Johnson and Tyreek and Kyler and Rome and DJ. Like, I'm cool with all this. Can we get some dudes on this line of scrimmage, either side of the ball? So if they do anything other than a guy that plays on either side of the line of scrimmage, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be very, very upset. I asked Ryan Poles, does he think he has the resources to flip this O-line in this offseason? And he's like, yeah, I think we got the resources. And he also said, I think there's some things that align for what we want to do in terms of free agency and the draft. So, yeah, obviously I'm going to let, free agency play out, and then that'll dictate a little bit more of your draft plan. But I see, Sports Chicago style, talking about Genty at 10. Y'all gonna see me blow a gasket if they draft that boy at 10. I don't have a problem with him. Great season, historical season. Shout out to him, man. But absolutely not. I'm going to lose my mind if they draft a skill position player with their first pick.
And I get it. The running back's coming back. Saquon's doing his thing. Derrick Henry's doing his thing. Like, the running back position is coming back to relevancy, and like having a back, I think, does some good things for a team. But that's too rich for me. You can't take James. I mean,
it's a luxury pick.
It's
a luxury pick.
Yes,
and we don't have that damn luxury. We don't have that luxury. So get in the trenches and get some difference-making offensive linemen. Do not get me upset on this Friday afternoon sports style. Come on, man. Come on, man.
And if that's the first pick that, Ben Johnson and, Ryan Poles would make, like, oh man, I think that would put some people completely who are very
Dude,
optimistic about it. It would be like, whoa, what are we doing? Like, again, who are you going to draft to protect Caleb Williams, who's going to block for JT, right? Like that's the thing too. You need to get guys that are going to block for
this ain't the Mountain West, bro. Like, we need some dudes. Like respectfully, like, my blood is boiling right now. Like, I'm getting hot. Like, just thinking about them doing something crazy like that.
Well,
I'd be so pissed at Ryan Poles.
We're starting off the Friday right. Let's freaking go. Okay, maybe because I think on the other side of the ball too, there are definitely guys that you need to add somebody opposite of Montez Sweat right now. I think that would be a good addition to what.
Look at what Jared Verse did this year, man, and what the impact that he made on that Rams defense that allowed them to go on a little bit of a playoff run because of their defense. They was getting like 15 sacks in like those couple games. Like, it was insane what they were doing. And so, and last year, what was it? 13, 14 players before any offensive guys went. Before any defensive guys went. If they have another run like that and they're sitting there at 10 and maybe the top defensive players on the board needs an edge, I wouldn't be mad at that. I want O-linemen, but if you get somebody in the trenches and the top edge players there, top defensive players there, I'm not mad at that at all.
No, I wouldn't be either. And some guys, I don't know if this is how high they will go, but guys that just stood out to me from the Senior Bowl, knowing what we know about Dennis Allen, what he wants in his defensive ends, a guy like Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M, 6'6", 290 pounds, fits that physical makeup that you would like. Didn't have a lot of production at Texas A&M last year, only 1.5 sacks, but I think you just look at the physical makeup. His actual NFL comparison, it's a guy like who was on the Bears before, Roy Robertson Harris.
Yeah.
And again, the physical makeup, I could definitely see it. But Shamar has twitch. He plays with a lot of energy, bend around the corners, showed some nice rip moves. Like, when I think of Dennis Allen, what he wants out of a defensive end, like, I can see it. Opposite of Montez Sweat, can you get creative, put guys on the inside? Potentially. So that was one guy that I'm looking like, okay, I'm going to keep, star him. Maybe if he's in the draft or wherever it lines up, he could be a guy that can potentially be drafted. Who knows?
Yeah, look, I think that, as it plays out, and like I said a couple of times already, it's going to start with the free agency. And I see Vizo Joe asking about that right now in terms of Tom Thayer talking about, that he thinks that the Bears should only go trenches in the free agency and draft. I'd be perfectly fine with that. I don't see a lot of holes on this roster in terms of skill position. I don't have any they're gonna do whatever they're gonna do with Keenan Allen. If they're gonna bring him back, cool. If not, fine. Like, you drafted Tyler Scott just last year. I think he still has a lot of potential there. So if you want to move him into that third receiver role, not a problem there. You want to get somebody else, cool. But if you focus all their resources on offensive line, defensive line, I would be perfectly fine with them running back the same group of skill guys that they ran out there last year. I don't have any problem with that at all. They got to get both sides of the line of scrimmage right. And if it takes using all of their resources this year on it, fine by me. I also was about to say that I don't think I wouldn't have a problem. Like, if there's a couple of, say, tackles they got their eyes on and they go, top 6 or whatever, and they're not there for you at 10, I don't mind moving back. Like if you think, okay, maybe there's a defensive guy that we can get, maybe we can get him at 14 or 15 or 17. Like, bounce. Let's get another second, another third, or whatever we're gonna get for that. Like, and because we need as many bites at this apple as possible to fill as many positions as we can, again, on either side of the line of scrimmage. Now, I expect them to take it back at some point in the draft. I think you should always take it back in the draft, just because you never know when one of them is going to hit, and you can get one that can hit in the 5th or 6th or 7th round. So I'm never mad at taking it back mid to late rounds. But yeah, man, left trenches.
And look, we have Billy Ocean here who's got a comment. Trey Smith is a must, and it seems like the more the conversation is like that guy's going to hit free agency. And if you're Ryan Poles, you were there when you drafted Trey Smith later in the draft too. So when you see what the player he's become, like, you start off free agency getting a guy like that. I don't know where Bears fans are going to be at in terms of like win-loss record, like where they're going to go. I completely understand.
Super Bowl.
He's a really good player. Yes.
That sets the tone. That would
Mhm.
really set the tone
Yep.
for this offseason. If you can go and you can get a big get like that immediately right off the bat, and because he's gonna be a first day free agent signing if you're gonna get him. And so if you can get that done, boom, then that would be great. That fills a huge position for you. And then now you can go about, okay, how can we fill the rest of these positions? How can we do so in a economically responsible way? Right. And then and then you start to look at, okay, well, what's left in free agency versus what's on the draft board, because those are going to be different contracts. And so if you think you can get in the draft, then cool. We don't have to overspend for it in free agency, but going to get a piece like that would be huge. I haven't gotten as excited about that because I don't know that he's going to get out the door. I would tag the dude or whatever, but I know the Chiefs got a lot of people to pay and only so much money to do it. And plus the Chiefs, they're just not scared to rebuild and let anybody leave. As long as you're not 15 or seemingly 95, whatever, we figure it out. Like, you know what I mean? Like everybody else, we figure it out. They've overcome, resetting that receiver and resetting the O-line. They've done it. And so I don't think they're scared to do it again. But if he gets out the door, Ryan Poles needs to be there with the McCaskey's checkbook. Just give the pen to Trey.
There you go.
Let him
There
write.
you go. Yeah. You put as many zeros in back of that first digit as you want, and you come over to Chicago. No, that it's a good point about the Chiefs and how they've done things. Like they Tyreek Hill is no longer on that team, and like there are guys that have been
and they ran it right back.
Yeah, huge contributors, and you have 15. You're probably going to be good. So it's going to be fascinating how that all plays out. And look, the Bears are still need to finalize some of the positions on their coaching staff, but as Herb and I continue to, record videos throughout the week, we'll keep you up to date with everything that's going on and potentially whatever the Bears do. But I think we had a pretty good turnout though right now, Herb. I mean, maybe over 100 people live. Let's freaking go.
Maybe Friday afternoons. Maybe we keep a Friday afternoon thing just rolling and wrap up the weeks and look into the weekend, and we'll see, man. Y'all drop some ideas, hit us up, let us know what y'all thought about this show. Make sure y'all subscribe and follow and hit the like button, and also share it with somebody that you think would appreciate the conversation. Nick, before we go, bro, and I know you finna hop on 670 Score. Make sure y'all tune in to Nick. He finna hop on 670 here in a little bit at the top of the hour. I picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl on September 5th. It was my Super Bowl pick in DraftKings. And at the time it was like plus 1,400. And now DraftKings like, you want to cash out? Because you want to cash out, and I could cash out, and it would be the bet has done more than enough for me right now if I cashed it out right now. But I actually think that they're going to win. I thought they were the best team at the beginning of the season. I still think they're the best. I still think they have their best roster. But I didn't pick them to play Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I didn't have the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. And now that I know they got to go against 15, I'm like, ooh, should I just cash out this bet now? Or should I just let it keep riding out and see, man? I know I bugged you that entire game in the 23 season when I hit a pretty big parlay. Like it was like a, I don't know, 7-pick, 8-pick parlay or something, one of those Bears games. And as it got closer and closer for all the things that needed to happen in that Bears game, I'm steady tapping you like, Nick, look, I just need this to happen or this not to happen. And the whole game, I just interrupting your whole work day. Like, look at this bet. Never mind working. Look at this bet.
I was investing too. I'm like, man, you gotta get this. Let's go.
And that one hit pretty big for me. So I need your opinion, man. I need to know, should I cash out because I'm scared of 15, or should I see it all the way through, my boy?
Man, Herb, that's tough. Like I've been going back and forth of who I think is going to win this game. I'm leaning towards the Chiefs because they for whatever reason
they figure it out. They find a way.
They figure it out. It's like, do you trust? I don't know. Do you trust like Kellen Moore or Steve Spagnuolo more? Right? Like the little things too that you have to look into as you're kind of going through this matchup. Like Mahomes or Jalen Hurts. I know Jalen Hurts is, he could do things that Mahomes can't do in terms of running the football, but Mahomes, and they always figure out a way. Herb, I am terrible at betting. I am just the absolute worst person that you can get advice from. But look, you have some time. To debate and go over this. But Saquon's also a difference maker too, man. Like
he's a problem.
He's a problem. I was talking to Jason Leisure, who was also at the Senior Bowl this past week, and we were kind of like talking about like with Saquon, I wonder how much more money it would have taken to land him in Chicago as opposed to like a guy like DeAndre Swift. The thing is, Saquon's not doing what he's doing with that Eagles offensive line, but he's still doing Saquon things.
He's still doing Saquon things.
I don't know. It would be
what ended up getting like 12, and I think Dre got 8. Now it may have cost the Bears more, but I don't know. It would have been cool to see, man. But certainly I think it's not a coincidence that he's having his best year behind that Eagles offensive line, and DeAndre Swift also had his best year behind that Eagles offensive line. That matters, and that's why if they take a skill position player at 10, I'm going to flip. Oh my God! So they got to get the trenches right. That's got to be first and foremost. Man, I'll let you know what I end up doing with the bet, but we'll see how it goes.
That makes it so much fun and so stressful at the same time. We're gonna be watching. If you do end up going with letting the bet ride, like again, don't know what the exact payout is, but I'm sure it's gonna make it really enticing.
Like, because I tweeted about it and I was like, what y'all think I should do? And some people was like, oh, you must have just bet on like 10 different teams. I did not. I made one Super Bowl bet. I picked the Eagles. And it was like, it must have been like a $5 bet. I was like, I wouldn't be stressing myself if it was a $5 bet. Like, I was just like, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the return wouldn't be that big. And some people were like, hey, just cash it out now and then make another Super Bowl bet to hedge the bet. But I'm like, the hedge won't be plus 1,400 like it was in September. So, whatever. I'll figure it out, man. But either way, it's been a fun way to kind of watch these playoffs and as they've unfolded, and we'll see what happens, man.
We'll see what happens. It's been fun to watch these playoffs. It's also been fun to hang out with you, Herb, on this Friday, talk some Bears football and just hang out with a bunch of people that are, enjoying this conversation on their Friday. But we appreciate all of you. Yeah, we appreciate all of you. Make sure you subscribe. Follow us on Twitter. We're going to continue doing this. Like, this has been a fun time and we enjoy doing it. So I just want to give everybody a shout out for being here, but we'll be back next week. All right, you guys. See ya.